When the previous version of the DS3 was launched by Citroën in 2009, it was very much a car that drew on the trends of the time. It was compact, stylish, highly customisable and good fun to drive. It was a clear mini rival, and a very good one at that. But what about this latest DS3? Well, in one sense it's very similar in that it too adopts the latest industry trends, only because those trends have changed, it's actually a very different type of car to the old DS3. Most notably, it's much larger. This thing is a crossover, whereas the old DS3 was a super mini. And to reflect as much, it's called the DS3 Crossback. As with other DS models, the new DS3 Crossback is no longer a Citroën model, but part of DS as a bespoke brand, and it's designed to be a true premium offering that uses chic style and highly individual design elements to stand out from the crowd. Whether you think it's fabulously unique or fussy and over-designed is down to personal taste, but what you can't dispute is that DS has at times with this car placed form over function. The boot, for example, is not class leading. At 350 litres, it is beaten by the Audi Q2 and Mini Countryman, let alone cheaper compact SUVs such as the Seat Arona. And while the rear seats do fold, they leave a step in the floor. Clearly, I don't have an awful lot of room back here. My feet are having to tuck under the seat in front. Legroom is not good. I'm 5'11", and this is set for me, this driver's seat. And yeah, I'm pretty squashed. Headroom's good though. I don't like the way these kick up here on the doors. Makes it more claustrophobic, and that is speaking as an adult as well. If you're a child, you are really going to be hunched down. It's going to feel very claustrophobic. However, what they do show is that DS is doing things differently. So if you are bored to tears with cars that all look and feel the same, there is a few touches in here that do make the DS3 Crossback stand out, and it has to be said that this leather is lovely. In our top of the range ultra prestige test car, there's more leather on the dash and door cards too. As a result, it does feel very upmarket in here. And once again, we can see evidence of DS willfully doing things differently. For example, this diamond motif is repeated here, there, and well, everywhere really. Plus these here would usually be buttons, but instead DS has used touch-sensitive pads. Now, they operate some of the functions on the touchscreen. They're like shortcut buttons really. However, you can again see function having to follow form here, because actually shortcut buttons should really in theory be next to the screen somewhere. They shouldn't have to reach down here. So for example, if I want to change the temperature, you first have to press here, then you have to adjust the temperature or the fan speed, and then you want to go back to CarPlay, for example, so then you press the app and then you have to press. You just find you're always kind of flitting between these two things. The pads themselves don't always respond when you press them either, or they respond when you lightly brush them on the way to press a neighbouring pad. As a result, it is possible to inadvertently press the wrong button. Like for example, I have twice now turned on the passenger's heated seat when actually what I wanted to do was adjust the music source. And I don't know if I'm brushing something down here sometimes as well, but the radio in this particular car just seems to come on at random moments. Another thing I'm not convinced by with the DS3 Crossback, I have to turn the engine on to show you this, is the head-up display that is on this higher spec model. It pops up on this panel here, but the panel itself is massive, and as a result it just interferes with some of your view. Personally, I find it more distracting to have the head-up display on than I do to turn it off and instead use the digital dial display. So ergonomically, the DS3 Crossback is far from perfect, and there are other problems too that you start to notice when you're driving. For example, the way these back doors kick up here, like we were talking about earlier, also creates terrible blind spots over your shoulder. And for a crossover, I'm not really getting the feeling of a particularly lofty driving position. It actually feels pretty much like I'm driving a normal hatchback. Where the DS3 Crossback differs from other more conventional cars is in the range of powertrains offered, which encompass petrol, diesel, and in due course a fully electric model called the E-Tense. That car is said to have a range of around 200 miles from a full charge, so it's looking as though it's going to be competitive rather than class leading. Today though, we are in a petrol powered DS3 Crossback. Specifically, it's the THP 130 automatic. It's one of 3 petrol engines available. Actually, they're all the same engine, they just have different power outputs. It's a 1.2 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder, and we've seen it in lots of other Peugeot models. It's a nice engine actually, it's smooth, it's perky, and although 0 to 62 takes 9.2 seconds, it actually feels brisker than that. It always feels like it's got some energy to it. It's also frugal, returning an easy 40 plus miles per gallon in normal driving. This 8-speed gearbox is generally nice and responsive, and there's a drive mode button here. You can put it in sport and that will hold a lower ratio to make the car feel a bit more energetic, or you can press this manual button and use the paddles, though the paddles themselves feel really cheap. As for ride and handling, the DS3 Crossback does strike a nice balance between comfort and responsiveness. It rides a bit too firmly at low speed. I suspect you could cure that to some degree by having 17-inch wheels rather than the 18-inch wheels on our test car, but other than that, it copes well on long journeys, and although the steering's light, it's pretty accurate and the body control is fairly good. As is increasingly becoming the norm, the DS3 Crossback is available with a range of driver assistance systems that will, for example, help keep the car a set distance from the vehicle in front, or help guide the steering to keep the car within its lane. Now, in practice, when you're using these on the motorway, they work well enough, but it does seem a touch ironic that the controls for them are hidden almost completely out of sight, so you have to take your eyes off the road to turn on the safety systems. Perhaps though, the biggest drawback of the DS3 Crossback is its price. The range starts from just over £21,000, and this test car is just over £31,000. Now, admittedly, it is in top spec trim, but it doesn't have the most powerful engine available. If you want that, you'll need to spend even more. Now, admittedly, there are elements of the design and the materials used that do help the DS3 Crossback to stand out. However, I can't help thinking that what DS Automobiles has created with this car is going to be somewhat of a niche choice. Could you be tempted by a DS3 Crossback? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll know when our new videos go live. And remember, whatever car takes your fancy, you'll easily be able to find great deals on it from top-rated dealers by visiting cargurus.co.uk.